Milne's well-received papers on the Auk, on icebergs and on Newfoundland's geology were soon to lead to a new appointment, and this time it was a change from the mercenary to the mystic. Professor Charles Beeke, a highly respected but slightly eccentric biblical scholar, had been appointed by the Royal Geographical Society to lead an expedition to the Sinai. His purpose? To discover the true location of where Moses had been given the Ten Commandments by God. Beeke wished to follow the path of the Exodus out of Egypt and into the Promised Land, using Milne's artistic skills to draw all the stopping points used by Moses. Once at the Gulf of Aqaba, Milne would climb what Beeke felt was the true Mount Sinai, Jebel Barqir, 100 miles northeast of its accepted location in the middle of the Sinai Peninsula. Climbing alone in hail and snow, Milne had mixed success in confirming Beeke's theory, and their return from the Holy Land aroused a storm of controversy. Milne's exploits, however, as well as his meticulous field diaries and his illustrations for Beeke's book, gained him a fellowship of the Geological Society of London at the age of 23. Beeke, who died the next year, was to write of him,
"He is a famous fellow when work is at hand. He is really a very clever young man and invaluable to me on this journey. How thankful I am to have someone so competent to do my work for me."
His carefully compiled notebooks, fossil collections, and geologically referenced relief maps, as well as his growing reputation for daring escapades, had prepared the way for an appointment which would change his life. Back here at the Royal School of Mines, the fledgling Meiji regime in Japan had requested a recommendation for the first professor of geology and mining at the Imperial College of Engineering in Tokyo. The school here had no hesitation in who to recommend, and in an act of typical daring, at the age of 24, Milne decided to travel overland to Japan through Russia and China. Understandably, he couldn't find a travel companion.
Before leaving England, I discovered that the popular opinions respecting a journey across Siberia were very vague. The name is mainly associated with gangs of exiles, packs of wolves and dreary plains of frost and snow, and the idea of starting a journey across such a country is received with astonishment and a supplement of ridicule.
Not deterred, he travelled first by coal steamer to Gothenburg, then on to St. Petersburg, the capital of the vast empire that he was about to cross. Immediately, the geology he had come to see was all around him. He was struck and excited by the huge, solid granite columns of St. Isaac's Cathedral. A vision of sheer beauty and grandeur awaited him as he stood astounded by the stained glass, the superb green variegated malachite columns, and on each side of the entrance to the crypt, the stunning blue of lapis lazuli set against golden Corinthian plinths, the whole combining in a vision of geological richness made up of what were, elsewhere in the world, rare, precious stones. His glimpse of Russia's geological riches culminated in a viewing of the crown jewels at the Winter Palace and here at the Church of the Resurrection. From the time that he left here at St. Petersburg and all the way on to the Mongolian steppes, he was advised to return back here and take a boat down around the Cape of Good Hope and into the Indian Ocean if he wanted to reach Japan alive. It was advice that he was to ignore. Milne's journey across the top of the world is a remarkable tale in itself. He recorded his many modes of transport, and his notebooks also listed travel routes, geology, flora, fauna, snow and rainfall patterns, barometric pressures, and temperatures and times of freezing of various Chinese, Mongolian and Russian rivers. They were later published by the Asiatic Society of Japan, which earned him more scientific plaudits. They were also published as a travel guide. It was a sort of a lonely planet of its day, entitled, with typical understatement, Observations for Persons Making the Overland Journey. Even in 1875, Shanghai's waterfront, the Bund, was a busy place. These days it is dominated by the colonial-era Peace Hotel. Today's passing parade of party boats would be unrecognisable to the 19th century traveller about to head down the river and across the East China Sea.
In Japan, the Tokugawa shogunate had been overthrown, and a young emperor was ushering in a new era which would become known as the Meiji Restoration. These were days of change and excitement, but even the young geologist could not have envisaged that over the sea lay a new home and a partner for life, or foreseen of the part he would have to play in the foundation of a new science which he would make his own, seismology.
He arrived in Tokyo in the spring of 1876. On the harbour shores were smoking chimneys, the first signs of the industrialisation which had come with the now 10-year-old reign of the Emperor Meiji. The overthrow of the shogunate by the emperor had owed much to the instability which had been caused by the three huge Ansai period earthquakes in the 1850s, which had destroyed Tokyo and wrought havoc along Japan's east coast. The woodcuts of the day are the best window into how the common people interpreted such events, and they give a surprisingly complex political, social, and spiritual narrative.
日本の民話では、かつて地震は大地の中に住む大ナマズが起こすものと伝えられていました。それを鹿島の神様が守っていましたが、鹿島の神様がお留守になると大ナマズが暴れ出し、地面が揺らいだのです。安政の大地震の時も神様がお留守でした。とても多くの人が倒れた家の下敷きになったり、津波で溺れ亡くなりました。
The woodcuts then show the wealthy merchants losing their gold among the destruction. In an event of world rectification, the earthquake has destroyed the power of the merchants, as the poor gain new employment in rebuilding and caring for each other's needs. The Namazu rebuild the city and are worshipped as they redistribute the merchants' gold to the coastal villages whose homes have been destroyed by the tsunami. As Kashima and the grey ghost-like figures of the dead look on, the poor come to worship the Namazu, who, having caused the destruction, is paradoxically now seen as a warrior who has overthrown the corrupt old world order and distributes the gold of the wealthy who continue to vomit it up. The Ansai quakes are a fascinating case of how every destructive earthquake has its own political, social and religious interpretation.